Hello, everyone. This is Igor. Today, I'm going to talk about qualitative data analysis. The idea is to discuss with you some basic insights into the qualitative data analysis. If you want to get in touch, please access my email is igor at utfpr.edu.br. You can also contact me on X. It's Igor, PhD, Igor with H. All right. Thank you very much. So one of the points that we're going to cover today is type of data, just as a preparation and things that you can access as a researcher and type of data that you can use to later analyze. If you're going to access some type of data, you also want some protocols of data collection. So make sure you collect your data properly and then you have a suitable data for your analysis. Then we go into the data analysis and specifically talking about thematic analysis. At the end, you're going to have a chance for some Q&A. If you are in a live session, of course. Otherwise, your Q&A is going to be throughout my email. All right? So some types of data that we have. If we think about some primary data, we have two types of data, basically. One is primary, and the primary data, we usually have interviews. We also have observations, focus group, and surveys. Here we have a mix of quantitative and qualitative data, with survey, electronic survey being more quantitative. But one of the most common is going to be interviews. And if you think about secondary data, you can use, some reports, organizational reports, meeting minutes, some historical data from your organization or from the phenomenon that you are investigating. You also have system reports. Recently, I have done a research with a student where we use some of the equipment from Google, like an assistant, a voice assistant that was like Google Home. So where we could access the report from the equipment, and then you could see how the users interact with this equipment. That was very useful. And there is also like social media. You can access different like data from social media. I'm going to give you some examples when we move to the next slide. And also you can do literature reviews, systematic literature reviews, scoop reviews, and so on. So there's a type of a data available that's we call for free with quotation marks here. For example, you can go to different like social media websites like TripAdvisor, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and all sorts of social media. Maybe you want to, even before mentioning like Meta here, you could. How can you access? Because if you go, for example, to Facebook, you can access different groups, discussion groups there. All these discussion groups, let's say they are discussing, poverty in Brazil, and then you can see that they are generating rich data from people experiencing or with experience in the phenomenon. So that's great. YouTube, you can get transcripts from presentations. TripAdvisor is a great source to analyze like consumer behavior, and you have others, of course. And then we move to Meta and Metaverse. So if you are into like virtual reality, you can also access data in the virtual world and collect this data and then make an analysis or even like record your session in the virtual world in the metaverse and then later on observe and analyze that what happened. But maybe you want to go a little bit, be a little bit more, I don't say sophisticated because I don't think it's a matter of sophistication, but I think you want to be more innovative. You can go to and analyze Love Island and see, maybe a couple of episodes and analyze what happens between couples. And I will be very honest with you, I never watched it, but I heard a lot of students commenting on this. So I find it kind of funny that, you can have like this reality show that you can go there and access the data. And I find funny the discussions around it. That's why I think it's a good source of data. And then you can go to Googlebox, and if you're not from the UK, this is basically a program about people watching other people watching TV. Now you can be a researcher of a person watching other people watching TV and their reactions. So that can be quite interesting. Or you can go to Big Brother, or if you were also in the UK, you can watch Embarrassing Bodies, okay, and just see how people react with some issues that they have, health issues that they have in their bodies that they want to seek treatment. Or you can go for more entrepreneurial inclination or avenue and go to Dragon's Den or the American one, which would be no, I don't actually recall the name, but I know we also have in Brazil, and if I remember during the presentation, it's Shark Tank. So Dragon's Den in the UK is going to be American version of the Shark Tank. Okay, so some data collection protocols. What is important here is that if you're going to collect your data, it's really important that you have a protocol that you can follow. If you're going to do some interview, the Saunders can provide like a rich and good protocol for you to carry out some structured interview on the structures or all sorts of interviews. And if you're going to go to systematic literature review, you can use two main methods, which I have experienced both. I have used and experienced both. You can use Turnfield and colleagues, and which they talk more about like phases of data collection, and they have like a really interesting protocol in healthcare. Or you can go to suggestions from Moher and colleagues as well, which is more like a Prisma model that they come with a Prisma model, which is also a very structured protocol. Maybe you're thinking about social media, and I could not, avoid to mention my work and Professor Hodgson's in 2021, where we were stuck at home, like, and I was in Brazil, he was in the UK, and we were trying to understand telemedicine as telemedicine was emerging as an important phenomenon. And then what happened is when I said, look, I'm seeing something on, that time was called Twitter, now X. I'm seeing some patterns on Twitter of people discussing about social media. I think we have an opportunity here, but we didn't have a protocol. I couldn't find a proper protocol to collect data. So I came across with like an idea of mixing a bit of like Trumfield's idea of systematic literature review, and then you adapt it to social media. So if you want to collect it, you have one, and I'll show you the example here. So basically, our research protocol on Twitter, we use the advanced search on Twitter, which considers some of the fields here using hashtags, English language, only tweets that were tweeted from the 1st of January 2020. That's when it was the peak of the pandemic, which actually we did until June 2020, which was like that big wave of the pandemic and also telemedicine. The hashtag definitions, we use telemedicine. We define specific what we want to search for, online doctor, online GP, and you can see other examples here. If you're just listening, I recommend you to have a look on our paper later because we have this protocol there. Kind of places that we searched on Twitter was like analysis of threads related to the hashtags, some of the tweet chats, some like discussions that they have there, some snowballing, also like some people referring to other tweets and other people there. Also, we had some like individual tweets that we found and discussions. We had an inclusion criteria of like saturation, 100% of the tweets from the period search, only tweets from physicians or patients, tweets from hashtags and predefined hashtags. Exclusion criteria, we wouldn't use companies or advertise, because usually they want to, just to, let's say, and fair enough, they just want to share what they have there. We also avoided some like biased complaints or jokes, that people are making. So in the first phase of this screening, we selected this tweet based on inclusion criteria. And then we had from patients, we had from physicians, we had 734 tweets, from patients, 146 tweets. Then a second screening that we did, we reanalyzed tweet by tweet, and they didn't mention the inclusion criteria, or if they were like retweets, we were duplicated, we just removed, and then we came down to physicians with 542 tweets and patients with 102 tweets, and then we did a thematic analysis. Why is nice about social media, like, and X tweet or Facebook, whatever you want to research, is that they show like real life, like, not exactly real life sometimes, because people sometimes just hide behind, but they show people really angry about things, people really saying things because, they know that they would not tell in front of probably a physician what they feel there, but or how they hate their platform, or a physician would tell the patient, So we could actually get a real world feeling in there. Of course, you have to take care with what you are researching, because you might come across with some topics that people, like racism or things that people will avoid, not talk about, or even like because of fear of like being canceled or something, people will avoid this, sadly. But I think we should, always be able to search for subjects and having a healthy discussion. And sometimes social media provides this, but I acknowledge that sometimes this can be a kind of like a dangerous territory. Okay. So then we have like data preparation. It's very important. You record your data, you transcribe your data. If necessary, like in my case, sometimes translate the data from Portuguese to English. So then storage this data as well. Just make sure that if something happens, you don't lose your data. Well, there are two ways basically you can do this. There are more, but I think the more common ones, that people really use it, that I've seen researchers and students doing it, like PhD or master students using it. Even my undergraduate students, they are doing this because I encourage them to use. So they are using either NVivo, it's a qualitative data analysis software. I think it's in, I don't know, I think in version 14 now. But I used version 12. I was using version 12 now, and 14 and is good as 14. Oh, you can do also manually or using Microsoft Office based, so you can do manually, but you can also move to a Excel spreadsheet, or maybe Microsoft Word, or I don't know how you prefer to do it. As long as you feel comfortable and you can also retrieve this data quickly so it can be reliable, it's something that I encourage you to do. If you never saw how NVivo works, I mean, I don't have any, this is not a tutorial for NVivo, but there is a very nice series of like NVivo tutorial on YouTube from an academic of the University of Hull in the UK. Hull is is Hull. So it's really nice, like 3-4 minutes tutorial, shows you the basics and a little bit more advanced uh, features of NVivo. Really highly recommend if you're using. This is how it looks like a coding template. So you have like your codes, your themes. Obviously, this is, I've done this. This is my research. And here you have obviously in Portuguese, and you cannot identify any of these people talking here as well. And then you have here like how you coded it. Okay. So a code book example would be like this, with like you can like have like a main theme, like a ribbon, and then you have like the codes inside here, and then that's how it looks when you like import to Word or Excel, Microsoft Excel. Then you have manual data analysis, which can be like Microsoft Word template. This again is what I used to my research. Um, I think that was back in 2019 or 20, I don't remember really. But like here you have like using Microsoft Words, and you using like track changes, and then you start like coding it as you see. Then you have like Microsoft Excel. You can also use, it can be a little bit more sophisticated, have interview themes, where are you doing this, and who is responding to it. Then you have data source, which is related to uh, the codes from the interviews, codes, initial themes, and review themes. Which when we talk about um, qualitative analysis, you will probably relate more to this thematic analysis. And then you can have a manual analysis as well. Look, I just got this example from the internet. I've seen a friend doing this, and it's mental. I can tell you, like, I do not recommend unless you are extremely organized, like because now I remember even she was so good doing that, but she got lost at some point and she had to do everything again. So yeah, I just if you want, you can do it, but you see, it's not very easy to retrieve, to control, and it cannot be sometimes depending on your type of like organization be very reliable. Again, you can do it, but it's not think that you should. I don't encourage my students to do it. But what is a thematic analysis? Thematic analysis is one of the most common techniques to analyze data, according to Breman and Bell in 2011, which these references will be at the end of my lecture. If you are just listening, you can go on YouTube and watch it, or you can email me. I'm happy to send you a PDF of this, and I have no problem with that. Um, so the idea of this presentation is actually you can, spread the knowledge, get to know and do, good quality research. Although I acknowledge that this is a basic, fundamental, basic pillars of like thematic analysis, okay? So you would need more to analyze like big set of data. Also, thematic analysis is a method of identifying, analyzing, and reporting patterns. These patterns can be themes, okay, within the data. And it describes your data, in rich and detail. So this is what Brown and Clark would talk about in their famous paper, and showing this that qualitative data comes from like codes when you're coding it, and then you have iterative comparison to generate themes. And then we will see. You're probably asking now, well, what is a code? This guy's talking about code themes. Is he using any interchangeable, word or something that I should not know? And I can tell you, look, what is a code? So a code identifies a feature that appears interesting to the analyst. So it's kind of like how you get to the themes. So when you have a pile, they imagine that, you have a pile of codes and they are similar, you might use them as almost merging them to create like a theme. You can code different stuff. So you can, it's a process that you will depend on like your research question. Robinson will talk about this, but what you can see is like you can actually code acts, behavior, activities, events, consequences, strategies, and meaning. But everything relies on your research question. Everything depends on your research question, but that's what's guiding you. In this case here, my code was lack of conditions to perform the work, and probably the research question was related to some of the challenges of like emergence department, as far as I remember from this research. But what counts as a theme then? So a theme captures something important, which code is important, but a theme is even more important because it brings you like very close to your research question to respond to your research question, and shows a meaningful uh, theme that represents what you found, and you can triangulate this with your research question. Okay. um, the judgment of the researcher determines what is a theme, and then you say, but that's very subjective. Yeah, well, sort of, because you can also you should use your research question again and triangulate with your judgment and see the problems that you're looking at and seeing the data and see, well, this is like I have this 5 6 goals, and if I merge them together, they are showing this example. For example, here in this publication in the impact emergent patients in emergent departments, or urgent patients in emergent departments, we have the impact of the kind of like NHS model on emergency departments. But that was one of the themes, the meaningful the theme that I was trying to find. Okay, my research questions was to understand the impact of no urgence in emergency department operations. So see that the impact of the UHS model, which I said NHS because it's the closest one in the English model of healthcare. So we can see this as very close to the research question. So the thematic analysis can be descriptive. So basically, you can give voice to participants, describe, summarize, capture surface of meanings. That can be quite tricky because sometimes you will see reviewers saying your data is too descriptive. So you need to think about how you add some depth on your data, on your analysis. And can be the thematic analysis can be also interpretative, which interprets the meaning of interrogate the data, and actually could be identify underlying ideas and assumptions. So actually is a little bit more profound than just describe something, is to understand what is going on there. What is the, I will remember now a colleague telling me, and she said, Igor, you need to listen to the data. It's how I'm going to listen to the data. But obviously, what she was saying is that you need to reflect on this and then be critical of what you're saying, and be critical also to refer back to your research question. Because your research questions is the most important one when you are analyzing. Because if your research question talks about, I don't know, the impact of like soft drinks on teenagers, but you're actually not using your research question, and you are actually just seeing what you're seeing the data, you might end up like just talking about the health situation, or the impact on health, or the impact on even well-being. So you need to connect this data to your, that's the word, you need to connect your data to your research question, and then you can do analysis. If you want to do like a thematic analysis, I strongly suggest you to refer to Brown and Clark's paper, but also there is like Randall 2002, which I kind of adapted a little bit to create this, to use these 6 steps, which is suggested by Brown and Clark and Randall as well. So in the first step, you should familiarize yourself with the data. Just read the data, transcribe it. That's why it's so important to transcribe the data, at least a couple of data. I remember doing my PhD, spent a lot of time trying to transcribe my data, and it's a painstaking job, and also painful because you have to keep listening to your voice and transcribe it. And then back in the day when I did it, we didn't have all this AI to transcribe automatically. We had to do it, typing by hand. So familiarize yourself, read it, make some initial notes about what you've seen there. And then in the second step, you start constructing initial codes. You start seeing like some systematic fashion across the data, and creating each of these codes. For example, here in this example, I was talking about I created a code that was related to environmental barriers to better service, because I could see them talking about how these environmental barriers, would disrupt the service. And in the third step, you can go on reading and searching for themes. So that's now you start like creating maybe themes or potential sub themes. Maybe you're not gonna use as a theme yet, but you have like at least like sub themes. Sometimes it's helpful to use a visual representation. I don't do this very frequently anymore, very often, but I used to do this a lot in the beginning, like even like cover my wall in my office with all these codes and see if I was seeing everything. And I don't have any problems doing it again because that was quite fun, to be fair. So for example, here you have like all these codes, and then you have like maybe one theme or two that you can extract from here. So then you have fourth step. The fourth step is where you're gonna refine the themes. You review what you found in the third step, and you start refining it. That means that some themes are not really themes, and maybe there is not enough data to support, or you have to break down into sub-themes, Maybe using this thematic map can help you to do it. Here's an example from my thesis, actually. This is like, I had like in blue, I had like codes, and then in red, like sub-theme, and then in green, I had like a main theme, okay? So large one is a little bit more complex, the way that I'm doing here, but still very, valuable for you to visualize your data. And then you have the fifth step is defining and naming themes. Okay, so once you try to identify the essence of what the theme is about, and then reflect this to how you name the themes, and then showing this like, okay, this labels now, and I'm going to label this theme now this way because this is actually connected to my research question and those things that I'm seeing on the data. And again, you should not use just your research question to like, I'm going to name this similar to my research question. Don't do it. This is wrong. You should actually go back to the data, and then from the data, you will see, okay, so what kind of theme you can use. For example, here I had like physicians' influence within the process. This is actually a paper that you can read and see this theme there. And then in this step, you're going to interpret the data and produce the report. It's basically writing, summarizing your findings, and then in your findings, you should definitely should use some quotes so you can complement and validate what you found and justify with evidence. Okay, so that will show good thematic analysis. Some advantages and disadvantages of thematic analysis. So in terms of like advantages and flexibility, can be applied a variety of epistemologies, the way that you see knowledge, and it's better suited to large data sets. I kind of like don't not totally disagree, but if you have a decent size of like, at least like 4, 5, 8 interviews, you can already apply thematic analysis. Particularly applicable to research questions, regarding people's views, attitudes. Again, we go to the question of epistemology and how people understand and see the world. Limited interpretative power unless combined with theoretical approach. This is when I told you can be quite. This is negative disadvantage because it can be quite descriptive. So you need some theory behind to help you to be more interpretative, okay? To interpret this data. If you want to know like what a poor thematic analysis looks like, so pay attention, make sure you list this. So if you have too many data extracts, and too little analytical commentary, that's not going to be good. If there is a poor fit between data and some analytic claims that we're doing, if your themes do not reflect actually what should be doing, they are incoherent. Themes are derived from interview questions. So as again, you just get rather than create a theme, you were like think you're smarter, and I don't know, I'm going to use just my interview questions here. This is not even the research questions, the interview questions. Okay, sometimes themes overlap. It also take care, just make sure you don't let them overlap. You know how to work with them. Researcher argues with the data rather than analyze it. Okay, or the analysis is too simplistic. And you got to the end and it was like, oh, this is not helping me to answer my research question. So those are good. Like if you want to fail, I would suggest you to just, dive into this list and make sure you fulfill all of them. Okay. Oh yeah, let's give an applause now for like a good characteristic of thematic analysis. And again, if you really want to get good on thematic analysis, there's a video that I suggest at the end of this lecture from Braun and Clark, and you can see they are the one that created this and developed this, So you're gonna be really good if you follow their methodology in details, but here's just a summary that will be helpful to you. Well, if you have a good balance between extracts and analytic commentary, that's good because you're not just like put all the interviews you can, the excerpts from the interview, just put in there and that's gonna work, you know. The analysis is convincing. Each theme has a clear central organizing concept, is meaningful. Themes are distinctive, they're not overlapping. The analysis answers the research questions and explains why the data are important in relation to the research question. So some examples here of like a data display. Once you have analysis, it's good you can display your data. So here we're just showing the themes. We're not showing the codes, but you could be showing, usually in the appendices in papers that I publish, I'll always show like the coding process as well. So show the codes and show the themes. And one thing that I like, even people say it's qualitative. It doesn't matter if you're going to put percentage, but sometimes it's good. Like you can illustrate a little bit more how the data emerged, and then some representative quotes, just to validate what you found. That's going to be good. This is undergraduate student of mine. She did like a literature review and she applied thematic analysis on literature review, which is brilliant job here. So really good to see. Like you can see the codes here, you can see times mentioned, you can see the themes, and then some representative quotes from the literature. And then you have data display again, more like as a quote. So you have the main theme and discuss a little bit the theme and show some of the quotes. This is from the paper from the tweets. So you can see like from Twitter, you can see some of the tweets that we showed there. Okay. So I always like to, at least finish leaving some hopefully helpful suggestions for people and for students who are working with me. So here I have the three elements that I work based on watch. So you can have like a couple of like short or long videos that will talk about some of the analysis here. Okay. Thematic analysis and how you conduct this. And then you have a list of like reading that you can also see some examples of things that you're looking at. And then if you want to look at, there is like a really good like qualitative research methods course on Coursera. And it's from the University of Amsterdam. I kind of enjoy that. And if you want, you just go there. I think it's free. It used to be free at least. It's week 6 talks about this analysis. So look at how many things we covered today. Okay, we even covered Love Island. Who'd have thought? But jokes aside, it's quite interesting to see like how many things we can actually do with data from different sources and how we can analyze it. Here's some references. So this is a big thank you to you that stayed here and listened to me, watched me, or you maybe are live on my session, and really appreciate it. So if you want to be in touch again, this is my email, higorwithhage@utfpr.edu.br from Brazil. I'm Brazilian. Or if you want to get in touch on X, you just go to Higor, PhD. Okay. So I appreciate your time. I hope you found this useful. If you want to be in touch for collaboration, help, or anything, please drop me a message. I'll be happy to help, and I'm sure we can find something interesting to work with. Have a good day and enjoy the rest of your sessions. Bye.